Why are the old danglers always talking about catching the big bass around cold fronts? Let's talk about that today on the Googan Lab. So there's this sort of mysticism around catching big bass around cold fronts, and if you have the opportunity to schedule a trip around fronts, they can be really good. And why is that? The first time I ever fished a tournament in Florida, which is all Florida bass, I was staying at a guy's house. He was letting me stay there to fish for the tournament, and he gave me a analog barometer. And he said, carry this with you, watch it, pay attention when you're catching bass, when you're not catching bass, and look at what the readings are, and you're gonna learn something. And he was right. That week I was down there in the spring, there was weather shifts going on, and when the barometric pressure would drop or when it was stable, I was definitely catching more bass than when it would go higher. And the reason is, when you get those high pressure days, and a lot of humans experience this too, you'll get sort of aches, you'll get like a headache sometimes, people will get, their joints will ache. Well, fish are the same way, and they'll often not bite, they will go to cover, or they'll suspend and just not move. And they'll just stay still and they won't feed. And that's because they are not feeling good. They're feeling a little woozy and they're just trying to recover from the front. But when you fish the pressure drop, or even right after a cold front when the pressure is still rising, that's when the fishing can be really good, because those bass feel that coming and they get triggered to feed before that pressure gets high. So when you see those clouds start to get low and that pressure is dropping, that is an excellent time to get out your big baits, go to places where you think big bass are living and fish those areas, because that's oftentimes when a big bass is gonna get triggered to go ahead and just feed up before that front comes in. And then when you have those bluebird days, it's just days of high pressure, winds, you can't see a cloud in the sky. Those are often really tough days to fish, and you can actually target fish easier because often they'll just go to cover and they'll sit there and they're harder to get. It's harder to get them to bite. Their strike zone is going to be a lot smaller, but they are a little bit more predictable on where they're going to be. But when you have low pressure, fish are going to come out of cover. They're going to go out of their way a lot more to attack your bait than they are on a high pressure day. Some of my best days on the water catching big bass have been when the conditions are getting rough out there. The weather is coming in. So if you're brave enough to stay out there during the storms, you might catch a big one. So stay tuned for more tips and tricks right here on the Googan Labs. We'll see you on the next one.